Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at someone you might call a technological bridge builder.
Interesting term. What do you mean by that?
Well, someone who really connects the deeply technical side code system design with the critical world of culture and humanities.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
We're exploring the entire Born Digital archive of Ruth Stalker Firth. It covers 2 decades, 2006 to 2025. She's a scholar, consultant, programmer, PhD in human-computer interaction, HCI.
Right. An incredible body of work. And for us, it's like a roadmap for modern digital humanities praxis, critical digital humanities, really.
So our mission today isn't just like a summary.
No. It's more using her journey, her evolution, to really unpack what critical digital humanities actually is.
That's important because DH often gets, simplified, doesn't it? People think it's just, using computers to count words in Shakespeare or something.
Exactly. And that's part of it, sure, the using digital resources for humanistic research part. But the critical bit, the part Stalker Firth really exemplifies, that's where technology itself gets subjected to, as she puts it, humanistic questioning and interrogation. It's a transdisciplinary thing.
And her background is perfect for that, right? HCI, UX, she programs.
Yes, all the tech chops. But then she brings in cultural frameworks, semiotics, storytelling, feminism, applies them to the tech, looks at tech as a cultural artifact itself.
And you can really see that development in the archive. Like early on, 2006, there's this piece, card sort analysis using a spreadsheet. Purely practical.
Totally. Foundational HCI method.
Yeah.
But that grounding gives her the credibility, the authority to later get into really deep philosophical critique.
Like that 2025 piece, the phenomena surrounding interactive computing systems.
Precisely. It mirrors the whole field's shift, really, from how do we use these tools to, wait, how are these tools actually shaping us? That's the big idea we want you to keep in mind as we go.
Okay, so let's start with that foundation, HCI, human-computer interaction. She's been lecturing on it since 2001, just recently posted about retiring her course, actually.
Yeah, end of an era for her teaching, it seems.
And her core interest, she says, is how people use technology. And vice versa.
And that little phrase, and vice versa, that's key, isn't it?
How so?
It flips the script. It's where the critical distance comes in. It's not just how we use tech, but how tech uses or maybe dictates things to us.
Right, like how we sometimes just let it shape our lives without really thinking.
Or how organizations, as she says, kind of feed the machine with our half-baked ideas, hoping something good comes out, instead of intentionally designing systems for human needs first.
And when that control is lost, that's when you get problems. Sometimes quite serious ones, like institutional abuse baked into the system.
Which brings us to that really compelling case study she did in 2025. Transport for London, TfL, and their Blackwall tunnel charging system.
Ah, yes, this one is quite something. It's a perfect, concrete example of design choices having real social, even financial consequences for people.
And she uses it to illustrate deceptive patterns. Maybe we should quickly explain that.
Good idea. So a deceptive pattern, sometimes called a dark pattern, is basically when a user interface or a system process is deliberately designed to trick you.
Yeah, to trick you into doing something you didn't mean to, usually something that benefits the company or institution, not you.
And with the TfL system, she points out 2 massive ethical failures. First, there's an auto-pay option. Sounds convenient.
Right. You'd think you set it up beforehand.
But you can't. They actually restrict registration until after you've already driven through the tunnel.
So you're forced into non-compliance first. You have to incur the charge, the potential penalty, before you can even sign up to avoid it in the future. It's backwards.
It's completely backwards. And then the second failure, if you get a penalty, maybe unfairly, and want to appeal it.
You'd assume you do that online, right? Through the app or website where the charge happened?
Nope. They completely block any online appeal route.
So how do you appeal? Smoke signals? Carrier pigeon?
Almost. She quotes it directly. You have to write to them on a piece of paper and post it to a P.O. BOX in Darlington.
Get out! A physical letter to a P.O. box for a digital charge.
In Darlington, yes. It's such monumental friction. Purposeful friction.
Absolutely. It's designed to make you just give up. Stalker Firth argues this isn't just bad design, it's not a mistake, it's a political thing.
A political critique, yeah.
Yeah.
Using this clunky, old-fashioned analog process for a digital issue.
Is a deliberate use of institutional power. It's designed to suppress your ability to push back, just through sheer hassle. It's easier to just pay the fine, even if it's wrong.
And this leads right into how she talks about technical debt, which most people think of as just, messy code developers have to fix later.
Right, an internal engineering problem.
Yeah.
But she reframes it. In cases like TfL, this isn't just bad code, it's a cultural failure.
Okay, explain that.
The technical debt, the bad system, is just a symptom of deeper issues. Organizational indifference, maybe incompetence, a lack of care for the user experience. It's the culture that allows that debt to build up and persist.
And that's why just throwing AI at the problem won't work.
Exactly her point. She warns against it. If you have these deep cultural problems, these broken processes, and you just layer AI on top.
Especially if the people implementing the AI, the managers, don't really understand the underlying human factors or the existing problems.
And then you just end up with, quote, yet another system that doesn't quite work. You're not fixing the root cause, you're just adding another layer of complex failure, compounding the liability, essentially.
Which is a great segue into our next section. Her whole critique of the AI hype cycle.
Yeah, this is where her HCI background really shines. She cuts through the noise.
She does. She keeps trying to demystify the current AI excitement, comparing the buzz around large language models, LLMs, to, what was it, the perceptron reveal in 1958.
That's right. Showing there's a long history of overpromising in AI. And critically, she insists on technical accuracy. For you listening, it's vital to grasp the difference between current LLMs and this idea of AGI, artificial general intelligence.
So remind us of the core distinction.
Okay, so LLMs, like ChatGPT, are fundamentally about pattern matching. They predict the next word in a sequence based on probabilities learned from vast amounts of text.
Pattern matching and predictive text, governed by probability and statistics, as she puts it.
Exactly. They aren't thinking, they don't understand meaning. And structurally, the way they're built, they cannot just wake up and become some conscious, generally intelligent AGI. That's still science fiction, despite headlines sometimes suggesting otherwise.
Here's a thought. Even if it is science fiction, if enough people believe it's just around the corner, doesn't that belief itself start to shape reality, influence funding, policy?
That is precisely the critical question she raises. The gap between the technical reality and the public narrative is where the humanistic analysis becomes so powerful. Why are we so ready, so eager perhaps, to believe the hype?
And she turns to literature for answers, which is fascinating. Her piece, ChatGPT, Macbeth, and Me.
Yes, this is brilliant. She connects the way LLMs can hallucinate, confidently state things that are just plain wrong to Macbeth's psychological breakdown.
Specifically, Macbeth seeing Banquo's ghost at the banquet, right?
Right. The ghost isn't real. It's a manifestation of his guilt, his delusion. But crucially, the courtiers around him, they see Macbeth freaking out, but they pretend not to see the ghost. They go along with the fiction to some extent.
Because it's too dangerous or disruptive not to.
Kind of. And she draws the parallel to society and AI. We see the flaws, the hallucinations, the biases in these models. But maybe, she suggests, we collectively choose to overlook them.
Because the acceptance of the fiction is necessary for the continuation of their livelihoods and the accepted narrative of progress.
Wow.
Yeah.
We treat the AI's output like it's authoritative, almost like an oracle. Like Macbeth consulting the witches, instead of treating it like what it is. Complex computation with inherent limitations and potential for error. We want the magic answer.
That frames AI less as a technology problem and more as, well, a cultural one, driven by the stories and myths we project onto it.
And that theme of projection, of narrative, of whose stories get told and whose get erased, leads us neatly into the next pillar. Gender studies in digital humanities.
Because the pattern of overlooking or erasing isn't new at all.
Not remotely. Her work does really important historical recovery here. In a piece called When Women Were Computers, she traces that term computer, referring to a person, usually a woman, doing calculations all the way back to 1731.
1731, so long before machines.
Decades before Babbage, centuries before electronic computers. It contextualizes the later erasure, like what happened with the women programmers of ENIAC.
Right, the ENIAC, one of the very first big electronic computers. These women were absolutely crucial for debugging it, getting it running. But in the photos, in the histories,
they were often treated like background props, edited out of history, as she says, while the male engineers got the spotlight. A deliberate crafting of the narrative.
And she argues this isn't just history, it echoes today. Her critique in Circles of Power.
Ah, yes, talking about how patriarchal structures can still undermine qualified women in tech.
She gives a specific frustrating example. A novelist speaking at an event, pushing technically inaccurate fears about AGI.
citing smart young men as his source.
while ignoring or dismissing actual female experts in the room who are trying to offer corrections based on, their actual technical knowledge.
It's the same pattern recurring, isn't it? The devaluation of expert female technical contributions, whether it's the 1940s with ENIAC or today with AI discourse, the structural bias is remarkably persistent.
Okay, so from specific critiques of systems and historical erasure, we now get to maybe the most theoretical point in our archive, the 2025 Phenomena series. Phenomenology. It sounds heavy.
It is quite high level, but it connects directly back to practical stuff. It's an ontological investigation.
Sure.
It's looking at how the basic building blocks of our digital world, things like files, folders, those automated email responses, error messages, how these digital artifacts actually gain meaning for us, how they structure our day-to-day digital existence, how our reality changes when so much of it is mediated by these often invisible digital structures.
So we've gone from critiquing one bad app, like TFL,
to critiquing the fundamental nature of, say, how we organize our files on a shared drive.
Okay, but what's the practical takeaway for someone just trying to find that report from last quarter?
It's actually very practical. She argues that common organizational failures, think confusing file names, endless nested folders, vague metadata, these aren't just annoying. They're sources of cognitive overload. They are like tiny institutional failures that make our digital lives harder, more exhausting.
So a messy shared drive is a form of, low-level institutional oppression.
In a way, yes. It increases friction, it wastes cognitive energy, it makes collaboration harder. Her point is that insisting on clarity, on meaningful structure, on transparency in these basic digital things, that's actually a practical application of critical phenomenology.
Also,
it's a form of resistance. Resistance against the opaque black box. If we can't even agree on what a file name should mean or where a document should live, how can we possibly hope to critically evaluate the outputs of a vastly more complex and opaque system like an LLM? We need clarity at the foundations.
That's quite a leap from file management to philosophical resistance.
Okay,
let's try to pull this all together. Synthesize this 2-decade journey for you listening. We've really identified 3 major strands, right?
I think so. First, there's the critical design piece. Connecting bad interfaces, deceptive patterns, technical debt, connecting all that directly to cultural problems, institutional failures. Design isn't neutral, it's political.
Got it. Second,
the AI literary critique. Using stories, analogies, Macbeth, myth, to cut through the hype around AI, to show how algorithmic authority is often manufactured, and how failures are cultural fictions we accept, not just tech glitches.
Okay, and third,
the gender studies in computing. Doing that vital historical recovery work, ENIACs, the 1731 computers, and linking it directly to contemporary critiques of how female technical expertise is still marginalized.
And threading through all of this is that core idea she keeps returning to. All things technology and storytelling.
Exactly. She shows how manipulative systems exploit ambiguity, exploit semiotics, the meaning of signs and symbols.
And the way to fight back is through critical literacy. Using narrative theory, understanding story structures like the hero's quest, understanding semiotics allows us to read and challenge these digital systems.
Storytelling isn't just for entertainment. In her work, it's framed as fundamental. It's the tool for manipulation and the tool for resistance in our digital age.
Which brings us back to those myths surrounding AI. Her analyses of fiction, like Westworld or Free Guy, seem to confirm that our collective imagination, our hopes and fears about AI, really does steer research agendas and public debate.
Yeah, she points out that our deep-seated anxieties about technology, ghosts in the machine, robots taking over, losing control of these fears, haven't fundamentally changed much since
the Iron Age, as she puts it. They're ancient human stories we keep retelling with new tech props.
So if our core hopes and anxieties are that persistent, that ancient, here's the final thought we want to leave you with.
If these age-old human narratives are just being dressed up in the language of engineering progress, how much of what we call disruptive innovation today is actually just playing out these ancient scripts? What stories, what fears, what hopes are you projecting onto the next big thing in tech? And how might those projections be shaping the actual choices being made right now? Something to chew on as you navigate your own